what that person is saying. Well, I had thought that maybe we would write things down on this piece of paper, but we can just say it, and maybe somebody will be taking notes and we can remember what everybody's ideas are. So for the first question, which of the principles that CEFR thinks is important, which ones do you think are most important for Taiwan? Somebody want to answer? Todd, you want to answer for your group?
We didn't really get it much on.
No. Answer for your partner.
But we talked about, what my partner suggested was that the can-do statements are important.
So,
what the students can do.
So that would be important in the context of Taiwan. Why did you think that can-do, the sort of emphasis on what people can do with language, why do you think that really is important for Taiwan University?
Because of what the students will do when they graduate. Because the students will likely be exposed to a lot of teaching, international businesses, so they'll need more than just a narrow focus.
Sometimes somebody will say, you know, my university, we do a very good job with error analysis. We spend a lot of time on error analysis, and we are very good at error analysis. But we don't look at the other side, which is competence. We don't always look at competence, we look at errors. So we like the can-do orientation of CEFR because it gives us some balance. It balances the focus on error analysis. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Who else? I need a report from another group. Which of the CEFR principles you think are important, most important for the situation here at Taiwan University? Yes. You have the ball. The ball, you know the phrase in English, the ball is in your court? Do you know that idiom? The ball is in your court?
That means you're upset.
It means it's up to you, right? You have the ball.
So I'm going to share my opinion or my parents' opinion.
It could be your opinion.
My opinion. In Seeker's philosophy, I think the Taiwan's department is considering the international communication most. Because in the past, teachers in Vietnam in particular focused much on grammar.
Yes.
Grammar. But now in the time of globalization, now we need to communicate more. So international communication, in my opinion, is the most important one. So with our students, after graduating from the faculty, they can communicate with foreigners. And in the near future, more workers and more investors will come to Vietnam. So with our communicative skills, our students cannot compete with the workers from other countries like Malaysia or Singapore.
So if you agree that international communication is a really important foundation for the curriculum, that means that you need to include lots of activities where students are listening to broadcasts from Singapore, broadcasts from India, and learning what the communication channels are for English speakers all over the world, and maybe attempting to use Facebook or some social media to communicate with people from other countries, that would be an important part to build into your curriculum if that philosophy is a philosophy that all of you share. Take a ball. Okay, one more. Which of the C4 principles did you think are most important for Taiwan University? One more group, and then we'll go to the next. Whoops, sorry. My fault.
That's your ball.
Your ball, yep.
Okay, so we have discussed about CF principle in Thái Nguyên University, and we talk about like the principle that we have to meet that comprehensible. Yeah, it means that the curriculum that should be given for students who can achieve, the students can deal with, and based on the learning and teaching needs and motivation. Okay,
So the need, for example, the pronunciation need is to be comprehensible.
Yeah, we are discussing about that.
Okay, good. You know, I use the word, I don't know if you make a distinction between comprehensibility and intelligibility. Is that, are those two things mean the same thing to you? Comprehensible and intelligible, is it the same thing? For me, there's a little difference, partly because of the research that I do. I think the way people use those words now in research, comprehensible means you think you can understand me. Your impression of me is that you can understand me. But intelligibility is more objective. Can you really understand me? So, for example, we measure intelligibility. If I speak and you transcribe what I have said, if your transcription is correct, we say I am intelligible. You really can understand me. You really can transcribe what I said. But if I say to you, can you understand me? And you say, oh, yes, 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 your English is very easy to understand. Then we say it's comprehensible. But sometimes intelligibility and comprehensibility are not the same, right? Sometimes you say, oh, he's easy to understand, but you can't really get every word. So I use those words a little differently. They don't quite mean the same thing for me. Okay, how about the brainstorming exercise? What words, just what are some terms? You know, brainstorming, I heard you use brainstorming in your classes. You ask your students to brainstorm. What does that mean, to brainstorm? Think of things. Yeah, it means very free, right? You have to be very free. You can't, we say, you know the word censor, C-E-N-S-O-R. Don't censor yourself. Don't edit yourself. Just come up with ideas and fluency. Brainstorming is all about fluency. Brainstorming is all about fluency, and then we can, later on, we can worry about editing it and see if it makes any sense, and prioritizing it, right? But brainstorming is all about fluency. So, let's go through the class very quickly, very, very quickly. What's one word that you brainstormed? In the corner, yes.
We think of
Oh.
number two.
Say it again.
For number two.
Number two.
Yes, we think of the word diversity.
Diversity. Okay, that belongs in the curriculum statement. We'll go back to the back.
Demand.
Demand. Okay, brainstorming. And your partner? We're going very, very fast. Brainstorming. What is one of the words that you think belongs on a word that you brainstorm that you think belongs in the teaching philosophy? Diversity. Okay. Fast, fast, fast. Diversity. Okay. Similarity. Okay. Something in the, that's good. Something in the teaching philosophy that has to do with similarity. Yes. Fast, fast, fast. Your turn. Brainstorm. Fast, fast. Say it again.
Focus on the outcomes of the
Ah, okay. Okay, focus on the outcomes, yep. You? Context. So something in the teaching philosophy that refers to context. That's great. Please. Reality. Okay. Communication needs to be in the teaching philosophy. Yes.
Motivation.
Motivation. Wow. That's a good word to have in a teaching philosophy. Sufficiency? Okay. How are you using that word? Sufficiency.
I mean that after graduating, if the student have enough knowledge to work in the outside environment.
Great. Okay. Please. Say it good. Interaction. Okay.
And technology.
Technology. That belongs in the teaching philosophy. I see you're Mr. Technology. Skills. We could talk about skills. Expectations. Whose expectations? Students' expectations.
Learning by doing.
Learning by doing. Communication. Professionally oriented.
Achievable.
Achievable. Yeah. So has someone else said reality relates to achievable? Yes. Coherence. So yeah, that's good. Coherent. The student should be coherent. Also, we talk about the curriculum needs to be coherent too. The curriculum can't go in lots of different directions. It needs to be consistent, going in one direction.
CFR oriented.
Okay. You want that in teaching philosophy. Linguistics. You think the students need to have a good grounding in linguistics, or you think that the teachers need to have a good grounding in linguistics? What about the students?
They are going to teach English in high school or in secondary school.
So they should know some linguistics.
Knowledge.
Knowledge of linguistics, yes. Practical, okay. Integrated skills. She knows that's my favorite idea, so she's just being nice. Self-study. Do your students, do you want autonomy? Okay, self-study, autonomy, yes. Flexibility, wow, that's good. Flexibility in languages. Consumer. Suitable. Okay, suitable to the learners. Okay. What kind of outcome? Targeted outcome. What do you mean by targeted outcome? Okay, so we are beginning to build a philosophy of curriculum for this department. All of these ideas can be incorporated, and then when you write your curriculum, you have to sit and say, is our curriculum true to the beliefs that we have? Is the curriculum really related to communication? Is our curriculum really practical? Is our curriculum really create flexible communicators or not? And you know, we are running out of time, and I want to show you some really very important and useful tools before we finish today. Tomorrow, my instructions for tomorrow are that we should focus on publication, research and publication. And I know that I should probably maybe say this at the end of the hour. Maybe that's not your favorite subject. Maybe someone said motivation. Maybe motivation is not so high for research and publications. But we'll do our best tomorrow to make you feel more positive about research and publication, and to think about it as someone else said, realistic and achievable for each of you. Realistic and achievable so that you can feel motivated. And also, if we have some material that you want to go back to from today that we did not get to in the next 27 minutes, we're going to leave in 27 minutes. We can take part of the time tomorrow morning, I think, to go back and cover some material. But I want to give you some very practical tools right now. Here's something very practical. This is not what I was thinking of. When you talk about the curriculum, how do you know how long it will take to teach what you want to teach? And I know at university now, if you pass the course, you go to the next course, you go to the next course, you go to the next course, and students finish in 4 years, correct? 4 years? But what level can we expect them to reach at 4 years? And this is, ALTE is the Association of Language Testers in Europe. So the Association of Language Testers in Europe, they have produced very good materials which go alongside CEFR. It's not exactly the same as CEFR, but they are parallel with CEFR. And we'll look at some of their materials in a second. And this is their idea, is that for a student to achieve C1 proficiency, it takes at least 700 to 800 hours of direct instruction in English to achieve C1 level of proficiency. So I don't know, you can go back to your curriculum and you can say, are we doing that or are we not?
I just want to clarify, does that mean starting from 0, or does that mean coming from B2 to C1?
No, I think it means coming from 0.
With teacher or without teacher? With teachers or without teachers?
With teachers. Yeah, this is direct in class. Right. This is in class hours. Yeah, in class hours. Okay, there are some documents that were too small to print, but they are tools that I want to recommend to you as you are actually constructing your lessons and constructing your syllabi. They allow you to relate each level of CEFR to very specific skills and linguistic knowledge. So let me see if I can pull up one of them. It's called the core inventory. So if you want to Google that, you can Google CEFR core inventory. And it looks like this. Here's part of it. It's very too small to see. That's why I wanted each of you to have your own copy. This is actually kind of useless. But the idea is that it has the levels across the top, and then in this particular table, which you cannot see unless you get it on your own screen, it comes from a document. Let's see. The title of the document is Equals Core Inventory for General English. And I hope that each one of you can maybe download a copy of this document. It's a very, very valuable document. And what it does first thing it does is it talks about language learning in terms of what functions can you do with language, what grammatical structures do you need to have, what discourse markers, like, you know what I mean by discourse markers. It might be something about taking turns. Well, now I want to say something, Or it might be something like, now what I'm going to tell you next is really important. Those kinds of discourse markers. And then vocabulary, and then topics. And the document is created by expert panels of teachers, and also by examining many textbooks, and by examining the CEFR documents themselves. This is kind of a synthesis of what could be taught, or what could be expected, and what should be taught at these different levels. So even though you can't see it, for example, I think maybe if we wanted to focus on B2, let's say, which class that you are teaching do you think corresponds to B2, in the sense that when the students finish this class, we expect them to have B2 proficiency. Maybe they get a passing score on the KET exam, right? Or a high pass on the KET exam. Which course do you teach that corresponds to B2? With that? So, for example, I have a textbook from Advanced 1. Is that B2? You think that's B2? Okay, so you say, I'm going to be teaching Advanced 1 writing and reading. What should I put in my class syllabus? What should I do in my class so that it corresponds to what CEFR and expert opinion thinks is B1 proficiency? So I'm sorry you can't see this, but the functions that I should be incorporating into my class activities: critiquing and reviewing, describing experiences, describing feelings and emotions. Remember, we said that for CEFR, intense interpersonal communication is important. So I need to give my students practice in the function of, in a B2 class, they should be able to describe their feelings and emotions. Should they be able to do that in B1? No. In B1, they can express their opinion, but they can't necessarily describe their emotions. Describing their emotions is very difficult, you know. I don't know if you've had the experience of being an international student. Some of you, I think, have studied other places, and the hardest part is always, I have a friend who is an English speaker, but I can't really tell him what's in my heart. I can't tell him what I'm feeling. I can't tell him how lonely I am and how I'm homesick for my home country, because I don't have the vocabulary. I don't have the competence. I think my friend is willing to listen to me, but I can't say it. I don't know how to do it. That's very, very difficult for an international student, is to have a friend, but not really be able to tell them what's in their heart. I hear so many of my international students saying, I feel like a baby when I'm, I can talk about the weather, I can talk about what I ate, I can talk about what we are studying in school, but I can't really talk to my friend about the things that are really important to me. So I feel like a baby. But if you're at the B2 level, you should be able to express feelings and emotions, developing an argument. If you look at the can-do statements for B2, you see that argumentation, persuasion, is very, very important at B2. We should be doing a lot of argumentative, giving reasons, creating logical arguments. That's what B2 discourse is all about. Very important to B2. So this tool tells you what functions you should be functioning or using in your class lessons if you are teaching this class, Advanced 1. And what kinds of language structures should I expect my students in this class to be capable of? I'm sorry, again, you can't see it, but it says, I laugh a little bit about the tenses, because I think that your students know the tenses better than the native English speakers know the tenses. So, for example, you should know future perfect. If you are in B2, you should know future perfect. I should ask you for an example of a sentence using future perfect tense. Can somebody give me a sentence using future perfect? I could say he will. Does somebody here have an example of a future perfect sentence?
The profit will have increased by 2020.
Will have increased. I thought that was will have. Yeah, that's okay. That's perfect. Right. Yeah. So will. So a student should be able to say the profits will have increased by 2020. Or future continuous. The student will be understanding. The student will be understanding that the profits will increase in 2020. So those are verbs that I expect, those are tenses that I expect my students to understand in B2, but in B1, no. Past continuous, past perfect in B1, but not future perfect. In B2, I expect my students can control reported speech. Do you know what's meant by reported speech? Yeah. Do you work on that in your class? John said that, right? John said that. He told me this, right? So that's a skill, reported speech, that we would expect students to know in B2, but not necessarily in B1. And certainly in C1, everybody should be very good with reported speech. So incidentally, if I wanted to help my students improve in the skill to use reported speech, what are some activities I might have in my classroom?
Retelling a story.
Retelling a story, that's great. And actually, you know, I have an example here. We'll listen to this. I have lots of examples. We have not gotten to them. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Because let's see. Let me give you the URL. You can listen to it yourself. Actually, maybe you can listen to it right now. Do you know this website called StoryCorps? StoryCorps. It's a very interesting website. It is everyday people, just common everyday people, telling stories about their lives. And it's a very good source for listening material. Maybe I'll download this so we can listen to it together tomorrow. But it's a story, if you can copy down the URL or maybe sit at your computer and listen to it. It's a story that a man tells who is a blind man, he can't see. And he finds three brothers, they are all blind also. And he becomes like their father. And in the story, he says, they all tell the story together. But this blind man says, and then you said, and then I said, and then you said, and then I said. So it's a really good example of reported speech. So if you either will figure out how to play this tomorrow, or maybe you can write down the URL and listen to it yourself. But this is an example of a listening passage which is very, very well aligned with B2. Why? Because it has a lot of reported speech in it. So I want you to choose materials. Choose materials that align with the kinds of skills that we are supposed to be looking at the B2 level. And the tool, this tool that I have just given you, is a very good way to a very good tool to specify in great detail what skills, what functions should I be using at each level. So grammar gives a list of grammatical expressions. Reported speech is one of them at the B2 level. And then it also talks about discourse markers that people at the B2 level should be able to master. So for example, at the B2 level, we should be able to use letters. A, if I'm writing, I can say A, we will go to the store. B, we will check prices. C, we will look at our bank book. That kind of listening is a B2 level skill as a written discourse marker. At B2 level, I should be able to use colloquial language. I should be able to say, the ball is in your court, or last night, bottoms up, right? And what kinds of topics? What kinds of topics should I expect a B2 student to discuss? An A1 student can discuss family. An A1 student can discuss holidays. An A1 student can discuss shopping. But a B2 student can discuss art. A B2 student can discuss film, because that's another B2 skill, to be able to watch films in the target language. So I should be able to say to you, tell me what the latest English film you saw is, and critique it for me. Tell me why you think it's a good film and why it's not a film. That's a good B2 task. Not a good A1 task, not a good A2 task, not a good B1 task, but a good B2 task. So this is one tool that I want you to be aware of and to use when you are constructing material for each of the levels. And there's one more tool that I will show you and then let you go, and that is so this is what we just looked at. This is material that is produced by that Association for Language Testers in Europe that I was telling you about. And for them, it's very important to talk about the context. Somebody mentioned context as an important word that you want to have in your teaching philosophy for the department. So they have several different contexts that they talk about. One of them here is work, the workplace. And they say there are many different concerns in workplace communication. So what kinds of services do you can request in a workplace, like asking the secretary to mail a letter for you, participating in meetings and seminars, writing letters, writing reports, giving public information, writing instructions and guidelines, and then, it didn't come out here, but using the telephone. Those are all work-related domains of activity, and if we are preparing students for the world of work, we can create activities that focus on these work-related language domains. But what activities are appropriate at which level? Which are, we can talk about work at A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, but we talk about it differently depending on what level. So that's the next part of this tool. And it's their levels are a little bit different. So this would be A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So if we look at the what we're calling the B2 level, which is their level A3, in the context of work, English in the workplace, I expect that my students can take and pass a message, that they can pay attention during a meeting, that they can understand most letters, most correspondence and reports that they are likely to come across in the workplace, and that they can deal with routine requests for goods and services in a workplace. That those are the kinds of skills that are appropriate for a B2 student in the workplace, should be able to master that. And if I am writing the curriculum for Advanced 1, and I want to incorporate something about workplace skills, these are the workplace skills that are appropriate for me to have in that B2 curriculum. So at the A2 level, I expect that my student can write a short note to a colleague in another company. But I don't expect that my A2 student can respond to a letter of complaint or a letter requesting some kind of good or some kind of service. Now, I'm so sorry that the multimedia is proving to be so complicated. I think maybe what I should have just done is put everything on the desktop computer here. So I don't know. Well, we could try this. Maybe the last thing that I wanted to show you today was to talk about some authentic materials, additional authentic materials. Oh, this is working. So we'll watch a little bit of this. This is, if we think that what happened to the torch?
Joining the global middle class by 2030, coming out of poverty, fantastic for them and their families. But we've got 2 billion people in the global middle class.
So this is from a resource called TED Talks. Do you know TED Talks?
Yes.
And it's relevant to A2. So an example of business-related discourse appropriate to A2 level.
I set up a climate change NGO called the Climate Group. I worked on forestry issues in WWF. I worked on development and agriculture issues in the UN system. About 25 years in total. And then 3 years ago, I found myself talking to IKEA's CEO about joining his team. Like many people here, well, I want to maximise my personal impact in the world. So I'm going to explain why I joined the team there. But first, let's just take 3 numbers. The first number is 3. 3 billion people. This is the number of people joining the global middle class by 2030, coming out of poverty. It's fantastic for them and their families, but we've got 2 billion people in the global middle class. class today, and this swells that number to 5, a big challenge when we already have resource scarcity. The second number is 6. This is 6 degrees centigrade, what we're heading towards in terms of global warming. We're not heading towards 1 degree or 3 degree or 4 degree, we're heading towards 6 degrees. And if you think about it, all of the weird weather we've been having the last few years, much of that is due to just 1 degree warming. And we need CO2 emissions to peak by the end of this decade globally and then come down. It's not inevitable, but we need to act decisively. The third number is 12. That's the number of cities in the world that had 1 million or more people when my grandmother was born. You can see my grandmother there. That was in the beginning of the last century. So just 12 cities. She was born in Manchester, England, the 9th largest city in the world. Now there are 500 cities, nearly, with 1 million people or more in. And if you look at the century from 1950 to 2050, that's the century when we build all the world's cities. The century we're in the middle of right now, every other century was kind of practice. And this lays down a blueprint for how we live. So think about it. We're building cities like never before, bringing people out of poverty like never before, and changing the climate like never before.
So I'll just give you a little example of that. You know, so he's, we need to do a little bit of pre-teaching if we were going to use that. In that listening sample, people need to understand what is this company that he works for, IKEA. Does anybody know IKEA? Oh, you know IKEA. Yeah. So, maybe your students would not know IKEA, so you need to explain that a little bit. You might need to teach them the word sustainability. You might need to talk about global warming, although I think some of your readings already talk about global warming. And then, this should be appropriate for A2 level listening, and you can create some kind of check, comprehension check, and response check at the end. Doesn't have to be multiple choice questions, it could be discussion questions, it could be short answer questions. These are the kinds of materials you're already familiar with. The TED Talks website, that's great. Wonderful things that they have subtitles, which I think are a good tool to help people listen and to deal with the vocabulary they encounter. Okay, so we are at the end of today's session. I think that we spent some time on just a little bit of cultural orientation, which I hope you found interesting and useful. And then we spent a fair amount of time talking about why it is necessary to articulate your philosophy of your unit, because you cannot review a curriculum except with respect to and in comparison to what you believe and what you want. There's no magic single way to do curriculum review. First step, anybody will tell you, is always to decide what is important to you as a unit, as a school. Once you decide what is important to you, then you can begin to go back and then you say, what are the needs of our students? And what are our needs as teachers? What are our opportunities and what are our strengths? What are our students' strengths? And you create an inventory of the needs and the strengths. Then you can begin to say, well, let's look at our present curriculum in whatever shape or form it is, and to see, does it correspond to the philosophy of teaching and learning that we have articulated? Does it address the needs of our students and of ourselves? Does it build on the strengths of our students, like internet and ourselves? And if it doesn't, then we begin to need to think about revising it and changing it. And we know, in your case, that you want to change it so it is aligned with CEFR levels. And I gave you some tools. So I know they were too small for you to look at, but each of you can look at them online. The British Council tool, the inventory of CEFR objectives, and the ALTE, Association of Language Testers in Europe, their parallel way of looking at levels and appropriate tasks and appropriate expectations. Those are tools that you can use to say, am I doing this in my class? They say I should be doing a lot of argumentation. They say I should be doing a lot of expressing feelings. They say I should be doing a lot of reported speech. They say I should be doing future perfect tenses. These are things that should be occurring in the B1 level courses in order for me to say that my curriculum is aligned with CEFR. Am I doing that? Where am I doing that? And then you have to find materials either in your existing textbooks or else authentic materials that you take from the internet and other sources that support the specific skills and abilities that are aligned with the level of course you're supposed to be teaching. So I'm sorry I didn't get that the technology today is a little messed up and too complicated. We'll do better tomorrow. But you can see, if you can carefully select listening materials, for example, if you are doing workplace English and you want somebody to talk about business, you can find it, not too difficult. You can find someone talking about business at a level which is appropriate for A2 students. So that's what I think a summary of what we accomplished today. And like I said at the beginning, we're just planting the seed. You have to grow the seed. You have to make it grow into a tree. We can't do that today in one day. But I hope that maybe you have some ideas for how to take care of that seed so it will grow into a new curriculum. Okay? So thank you for coming today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll cover some more material about curriculum, and then we'll have a lot of fun talking about research and publication.